Welcome back to the Badass Literature Society, where badasses come together to rate and review novels recommended by you. Hi, I'm Michael.
This is Barbara.
And I'm Lauren.
Today we are going to be doing a new BookTok challenge where we talk about some interesting things that maybe we haven't done before, and we're going to challenge ourselves to do in the upcoming year. The first of those is reread a book you didn't like when you were young.
So this was hard for me to figure out what I didn't like as a child because I loved reading and I don't recall ever disliking a book so much. But then I remember one of my English teachers was obsessed with Mark Twain and made us read his books and all of this crap. And I was never a fan of Mark Twain. So I guess I would have to reread one of his books, which I still find extremely problematic because he was racist as F. So I guess it would have to be that, because outside of that, I really can't think of anything that I didn't like as a kid outside of Mark Twain, and I would hate to do that to myself, but here we are.
Poor Mark Twain.
I'm sorry. Do you like his books? Because they're crap.
I enjoyed... I've only read Tom Sawyer and Huckleberry Finn, but yeah, I enjoyed them.
Okay, well, you're also a white man, so that makes sense.
I'm not sure what that means, but okay.
Because it was written... It doesn't matter. He's really racist if you read his black characters, just saying.
Okay. That's true. I mean, he did write about a time that... Anyway. So mine for this would be the only... I also had to kind of think about it. The only one that came to mind was a required reading in school and it was actually the only one I think I didn't like, was Lord of the Flies by William Golding. Probably, I mean, I didn't hate it, but it was my least favorite one that we had to read in high school or middle school. I don't remember when it was. It was either 8th or 9th grade. But I haven't read it since then. It's obviously a classic for a reason, so maybe I should give it another chance.
I mean, I feel like classics don't really fly right now.
Yeah, that's fair. Mine was Of Mice and Men, also from middle school. And I'm sure I didn't like it just because I would have rather been reading all the things that I wanted to read and not that. But I'm sure if I went back and I feel like if I reread it, I would probably like it. But at the time, I remember loathing the fact that I had to read that because it took away from... Is that the one
where he kept a creepy mouse in his pocket?
You've read it. You also didn't like it.
Oh.
Yeah, well. I mean, and I think if I went back and reread it as an adult, maybe I would see it differently. But at the time, it was taking away from my reading that I wanted to be doing.
Well, thankfully, Lauren, you've picked an easy one because it's only 100 pages. It's a very short book.
Oh, perfect.
There you go.
I'll get right on that.
All right, next is read more books by authors with different experiences than yours. And I think this is mine, I guess. And I've already been doing this, but I intend to do it even more. And it's reading books by POC authors, and especially by women as well. We were going through the list when we did our top books we were looking forward to in 2024. Barbara was like, I think all of yours are by white men. And I was like, they can't be. That can't be right. And it turned out a lot of them were by
did we decide 95%?
It wasn't that bad.
2.
95% was by white people. There were some who were white women. But so it kind of opened my eyes to, yes, I have read a lot of books that are by a variety of people, but definitely the majority of things that I have read in my life have been by white men. And so before we even talked about doing this bonus episode, I had already challenged myself to read more books by different kinds of authors than what I typically do. And what's funny is that, yes, that's typically what I've always read. But if I look at my Goodreads, the books that I have read, whether it's by a POC author or a woman or a POC woman author, I love them. They're great. So I need to, and I've already challenged myself to read more of them. So that's on my list for 2024.
Yeah, that's on my list too. Specifically, the author, I would probably say I want to read more Toni Morrison, and I've read her before, and she's a really powerful Black author. But yeah, I think when I wouldn't have just selected her book without it being assigned for a book club a long time ago, the one that I did read, but it was very powerful, and so I would probably read something else by her.
So I would like to preface this with the fact that I am a Latina woman, and I feel like I've been reading authors with different experiences my whole life, because growing up, it was just white authors or white male authors that really got the reading that like were published. That's the word we're looking for, that were published. So I've always done this because I enjoy reading authors with different experiences. I've been trying to find more Latin authors because I feel like that's been hard for me to try to find, and lately it's been happening and it makes me extremely happy. Obviously that's a little more like not my, it's funny because I'm trying to do the opposite. I'm trying to read authors with similar experiences than me, because growing up I didn't get that. I always tried to, like, if they would describe a character or something, I would always imagine them looking more like people that I knew, like more Latin or Afro-Latin and all that jazz. So, but I've always been extremely aware of this, and I've always tried to read authors that have different experiences than me. I feel like I've been on a binge for African and Asian inspired fantasy novels, which have been super amazing. I'm so glad that we're finally getting those here, but I feel like there's a little lack of the Latin one, so I've been trying to put more of that. So something I've always been aware of. So maybe I should write more white men for different experience. What do you think?
There you go. I don't think so. All right, so let's see. Next is challenge yourself to read a genre you do not read very often.
So I feel like I've already done this in the sense of I'm reading a lot more fantasy novels than I previously read, just due to the podcast. But generally, those wouldn't be ones that I would select in the past. So I would say more fantasy novels, but then I don't know. I think historical fantasy seems like a cool genre too to look into more. But I'd say, yeah, maybe more sci-fi this year. I don't know.
So for me, it would definitely have to be rom-coms. I don't read those. I've shied away from them. I've never really been a huge fan. I love fantasy, high fantasy, sci-fi to an extent, like I feel like all the fantasy or all of these genres but rom-coms. So I would have to start reading more of those. And I feel like I've tried lately. So that's a thing, but that would be my genre. I feel like I would have to read more rom-coms to see what I'm missing out on.
So as much as I don't want to answer this question, I'm going to say the genre that I do not really read is romance, and I'm not going to commit to reading straight up romance because I know myself. I'm not going to do that, but I will commit to reading more like romantasy, which is books that are in a fantasy setting but are a romance story. Like, for example, Lauren recommended.
Is it Sarah J. Maas that?
So I think
it is,
her Court of Thorns and Roses is, but I wouldn't call Throne of Glass romantasy. That's the one that I've read. I haven't read the ACOTAR yet, but Lauren did recommend Fourth Wing, which I read, and I enjoyed.
Fourth Wing is good.
It's just that's absolutely a romance first, fantasy second. So I'm going to commit to reading more books like that because it's out of my normal wheelhouse.
I feel like for you it has to be straight up romance.
we'll get there. Maybe I'll read like a straight up romance. But for now, I'm telling you, I'm going to read more romantasy or heavily romance themed other genres.
I guess I shouldn't say rom-com. Mine is just straight up just romance. I've read romantasies, which I feel like was a thing before it actually turned into a thing, and I don't mind that. Like, I enjoy that because it still has fantasy in it, but like mine is straight up just romance that I've not really been a fan of. So.
See, I had avoided even the romantasy stuff until Lauren.
I like those because that's what I want. Like, I want a little kissy hero. We're trying to murder the evil person. Yeah.
Let's see. Next challenge: challenge yourself to read a medium you haven't read before.
So we were trying to figure these out, and we've stumbled upon like poems, short stories, prose, graphic novels, audiobooks, comics, and manga. And honestly, outside of novels, I don't read any of these. I mean, obviously, I read poems and stuff as a kid in school, and I don't mind poems. It depends on the poem, I guess. I like short stories, actually, so I guess I wouldn't say that one.
I think you should challenge yourself to do either comics or manga, because I'm a big fan of both those mediums, and I've tried to get you to read, and you've tried before, but I don't know
why. It's funny, because I'm such a visual person. Like, I'm a visual learner, and I enjoy that kind of stuff, and I don't know why I struggle with comics, and maybe because comics, like, I want a self-contained story, and I feel like comics just, it's like it's like Brazilian soap operas. Like, this crap lasts years. Ain't nobody got time for that.
So then pick manga, and then read one of your nice fancy editions of Sailor Moon that are on the shelf behind me.
Yeah. I guess I just want something shorter too, because I feel like it's what is the word we're looking for? Really, like, it's a lot when I think about, like, these mangas are like 400, what is it called? Manga books long? What is it called? Chapters?
They're called chapters. Yeah.
Chapters?
Volumes are the books, but there's chapters that comprise the volume.
And that is very daunting. There we go. It's very daunting to me to think that's a lot to me. Like, I want something shorter. So if there's something shorter out there, I wouldn't be opposed to that. But I really do think that's maybe the issue that I have. So maybe a graphic novel, because I heard graphic novels are shorter, right?
That's what I was about to say. Like, something self-contained. Yeah.
Yeah. So
if you want to do manga, then pick one that's shorter. So, like, Death Note, for example, there's only 6 books. Like, it's not like there's like 50 like there are in some
Okay. Well, I don't know what Death Note is about, so... Death.
I think you would like it. I've recommended it to you previously.
I mean, Sailor Moon's kind of, well, it's not really that short, and I liked the anime when I was a kid. But anyway, so it would be one of those, but I would like a shorter one, because I think that's too much for me, and my brain goes haywire thinking about how much I would have to, like, invest and read about, and I like more self-contained. Like, I think maybe that's why I like books, because even with, like, a trilogy, like, it's trilogy, it ends. There we go, problem solved.
So this one is kind of difficult for me because I already read graphic novels and I listen to audiobooks and I read comics and manga. I mean, I've read a lot of poems. I guess I haven't read a lot of them recently, but I don't feel like that's fair. So it's not like it's a medium that I don't enjoy. So it's tricky. I don't know what to choose. Like, the ones that you guys listed out here.
Prose.
So can you tell me what that is? Because I can't think of the definition of it off the top of my head. And maybe I should pick that.
Prose is basically like
I thought it was
cross
like
between like short story
and
essay
poems.
type situations and poems.
Yeah.
So it's more like short stories.
So would like Dante Alighieri's Divine Comedy, is that prose?
I don't know what that is, so I couldn't answer you.
I don't know if that would be considered a prose, to be honest with you.
Well, not knowing what prose is, I'm going to commit to reading that medium because it's the only one that I'm not familiar with and otherwise actively reading. I guess I'll figure out what that is. If you're listening to this and there's something you know is prose and I should read it, send us a message on Instagram or Facebook and I will check it out for my challenge for this.
Yes, and mine will definitely be graphic novel because I don't think I've ever read a graphic novel, to be quite honest. Like, I used to flip through comic books and stuff because Michael used to have them when we were kids, but I've not read a graphic novel since. So that would be a medium that I definitely have not read before.
Okay, so let's see. Next challenge is to reread an old favorite. Man, reread an old favorite. I will probably challenge myself to reread either George Orwell's, I'm going to say 3 of them. So George Orwell's Animal Farm, George Orwell's 1984, or Aldous Huxley's Brave New World, because I really enjoyed all 3 of those books, and I haven't read them since I read them in high school. And so I'm going to challenge myself to reread
Animal Farm is good, but I hated that the pigs were the evil ones. Because
Animal Farm was amazing.
As a pig lover, it made me really upset that the pigs were the bad guys. And as a child, that was really upsetting. Maybe that's the book I need to reread, because like I actually enjoyed Animal Farm, and it's really but I remember as a kid thinking like, why did the pigs have to be the bad guys? Why couldn't it be the chickens?
So one of those 3, or maybe all 3 of them, that's what I'm going to challenge myself to reread.
So my reread of old favorites is always going to be Harry Potter. So I will reread.
Don't you already reread that? I feel like that doesn't count.
Not since I have had kids.
That's a cop-out, woman. That's a cop-out. No.
Okay, maybe I'll reread Princess Diaries then by Meg Cabot. That used to be my, like, I literally read that on repeat and then watched the movie when it came out on repeat. So I could probably reread that.
Okay, I approve that message. My reread, an old favorite for me, would be the Seventh Tower series by Garth Nix, and I still have the books in my collection here in my bookshelf and stuff. And I just remember absolutely loving this series, and I did book reports of it, and I wish I had my drawings of it because I remember those drawings being bomb for my book stuff that I had to do when I was in like elementary school or something like that. And I love Garth Nix. I still read his books. And I just remember reading this book. And if I'm not mistaken, it was like the first book that I read as a kid that had, so it's dual point of views, and it's a boy and a girl. And the girl is the one who's the fighter, is the one who is what you would normally stereotypically think would be like a male genre type of character, like, you know, the fighter and all this stuff, whereas the boy was the book smart, the one who was that academic. And I just remember reading that book and thinking, this girl is such a badass and I want to be her so bad. And I remember the story to this day, and I think, you know what, like doing this, I want to reread these to see if it holds up to my memory of it being a good book, and hoping that she still is a badass. And it wasn't just little Barbara thinking she was, but I feel like that's true. Or something by Tamara Pierce, like her books were really cool because she wrote fantasy women that you just didn't see as a woman who liked fantasy. That just wasn't a thing back then. And she started that in like, I want to say like early 90s, maybe even 80s and stuff like that with her book series with badass women. So
okay, next challenge is to read something from your TBR list that has been on your TBR list for longer than 1 year.
Court of Thorn and Roses.
Has that been on your TBR for a long time? It has,
since it came. Yeah, it's been on my TBR for quite some time, and I keep saying I'm going to read it. I've never read it, and it's probably going to have to happen this year.
One of these days, she's going to make Barbara read it.
No,
I don't think I think Barbara would just take a sick month.
Yeah, probably. I'll just like, I'm sick that day, I feel like. You know, it happens. Wings of Ebony by J.L. I added this a while back in like 2021. Oh, here we go. Okay, you have to click on it. 2021, yeah. So I heard it was really good, and the cover is really sweet, and that is one that I need to read.
So the oldest one on my TBR has been on my TBR on Goodreads for almost 10 years now. 2015 is when it was added, and I'm gonna read that this year.
Read it?
No, I still haven't. I actually own it too, and I still haven't read it.
Oh my gosh, really?
It is The Lost City of Z, a tale of deadly obsession in the Amazon. It is actually it's a movie. It's a nonfiction book about legendary British explorer Percy Fawcett and the Amazon jungle and his explorations. They made a movie of it not that long ago with Charlie Hunnam playing the main role. So that's what I'm challenging myself to read, because that's literally the oldest thing on my Goodreads. Let's see. And last one, read a friend's favorite.
So we get to recommend it. I say that.
So are we going to say then that we each get to recommend a book for...
Yes.
So I'll recommend one for Lauren and one for Barbara?
Yes, for Barbara. Okay. Yes.
So if this is Barbara going first, then Lauren and I need to recommend books for you on the fly.
Oh, I thought it was like I recommend one for you.
That's fine. First. You can go first.
Okay, so for Lauren, Legendborn by Tracy Deonn. It's either read the second one of the Diviner series, Lauren, or Legendborn. I think you would really like that one. Okay. For Michael, it would be the same thing. Read the second one of the series that I'm always recommending to you. The problem is, like, I recommend books to you. He reads the first one and then never finishes the series. I don't know how you do that to yourself. I would just die.
I'm bad at that.
Yeah, I would die because I am a completionist. Like, I need to finish the stories. I don't know how you do this to yourself, that you just pick up like 20 books and never finish the series. So that's funny that for both of y'all it's going to be the same. Except for Michael, it would be book 2 in the series for those two.
Book 2 in the Diviners series. Is that what you're saying?
Well, that or yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm, all right. Mm-hmm. Okay. For me, I'm going to make recommendations. I guess first one for Barbara. And so if I make this recommendation, you have to read it, right? That's what this is. Like, you're challenging yourself to read a book that's recommended by...
I think it's taking the suggestion.
Yeah. I was going to say, am I putting myself up to the flame and touching it? I don't know how I feel about that.
So I was going to tell you the book that I've been trying to get you to read is Eye of the World by Robert Jordan. It's the first book in Wheel of Time. I know you're probably not going to read the entire series, but I would like you.
Michael, you can't. I'm sorry. I'm going to put my foot down. I'm not reading a book series that has like 20 books and they're like 800 pages each. because if I read the first one, I'm gonna have to read all of them, and that just sounds awful.
So you're gonna make me pick something different.
Yeah, I don't think that's fair. Like, pick something that has like 3 or 4 books. I'll give you 4, but like 8 with 800 isn't that one? It's that one, isn't it?
There's like 13 books.
Where the dude died and they're still trying to finish the book series. 13. Oh my god!
Have you read any of the Hannibal Lecter books by Thomas Harris?
No.
Okay, then that's my recommendation for you. You're going to read Red Dragon, which is the first and my favorite of the Hannibal Lecter series by Thomas Harris. So Red Dragon by Thomas Harris. Fantastic book. Really, really, it's scarier in the film, in my opinion. He's a really good writer. So that's my recommendation for Barbara. For Lauren, I'm going to recommend something that is in a genre that Lauren hasn't even read for the podcast. And it's going to be The Terminal List by Jack Carr. It is an action thriller, a military action thriller. So that is something I know you haven't really read, but I think you might enjoy it if you gave it a chance. Not a super long book. It is part of a series, but it's similar to other thriller and action and other like mystery series.
Think like NCIS or
yeah,
something
you can read any. Like yes, there's an overarching story, but it's like if you grabbed book 4, you could read it and enjoy the story without knowing what happened. One of those. You don't have to read all of them, but I recommend.
We're going to need to write these down though somewhere too.
So those are my recommendations for the two of you.
Okay. So for mine, for Barbara, you've not read Fourth Wing yet, right?
I have not, and please don't make me do it.
Oh, Fourth Wing, I feel like you would like it. But, okay, if you refuse to read Fourth Wing, I was going to say The Measure for Michael, so you could read that one too. You'd probably like it. The Measure by Nikki Ehrlich. So it's based on it's like a existentialist book, essentially. Everybody in the world gets a box delivered to their doorstep on the same day that has a string in it.
I've read that.
Depending on... Oh, you read The Measure?
I think so.
Depending on the length of the string, that shows like how much life you have left. Yeah. And then it like goes into the politics. Okay.
Yeah, I read
that. So that's a good one.
That is a really good book, actually.
And then Michael, I was either going to do The Measure for You or Mr. Mercedes, Stephen King book. It's good. I don't know if you've read it yet.
I have not.
You would like it.
Mr. Mercedes.
It's a trilogy, but it's the first in a trilogy. I have not read the second 2 yet, but Mr. Mercedes is really good. And I know you like Stephen King, so.
Yeah, I've read that one. I didn't realize that's what it's called, but I have read that one. It's really good. I like it.
Yeah, it's really good. Lots of life questions. Makes you thinking about how you're living your life.
It was very trippy to read that and be like, oh. Yeah. It makes you think. It's one of those.
So what was your recommendation for Barbara then? Are you giving her Fourth Wing, or are you giving her a break on that?
I mean, I would like to see her read Fourth Wing, and then she
wouldn't
probably like Mr. Mercedes as much as you would.
I like Stephen King. Well, okay, Stephen King and I have a very complicated relationship.
I thought she would like Fourth Wing. There's lots of dragons.
I feel like Fourth Wing is worth reading, but if I have to pick like a second one, let's think. I mean, it's better than making you read Ruth Ware.
I don't know.
Those are your choices, Barbara. Ruth Ware, Sarah J. Maas, or Fourth Wing.
You're like holding a gun to my head and saying, pick how you like to die. By
have you read Fight Club?
Or Lethal Injection? I have not read Fight Club.
Fight Club.
Okay, I'm willing to do that one.
And Chuck Palahniuk is a boss, and it's a really, really good book. I like all his books, but that's probably the most palatable if you're not used to reading his style.
No, I've just seen the book, obviously, but I've seen the book. I've seen the movie. Jesus. But I have never read any of his books. I know Michael's got them, but no, I've never read them.
I love Chuck Palahniuk.
Yep. I would recommend that one.
Okay. I'm willing to do that one more so than the 3 that you would, the ones that Michael listed for me.
We're gonna get the remember the reading setup that Barbara described to you, Lauren, where she has like the stand with the Kindle attached and a remote. I'm gonna tie Barbara to the bed and put the Kindle above her with the remote, and Fourth Wing will be all that she can read.
But you can't force her to read it though. Like she can just close her eyes.
Well, I mean, she can just lay there bored, I guess, if she wants to. That's her prerogative. But
I would rather do that then.
But to be fair, I mean, I liked Fourth Wing, but I didn't like it in the sense that I'm gonna tie somebody up and make them read it.
See, your sister's nicer to me, Michael.
I thought it was a good book. Is it the best book of all time? No, but I did enjoy it.
Did you guys read The Girl with All the Gifts?
No, I don't even know what that is.
You guys would like that one too. That one is more of like a sci-fi one. So it's like post-apocalyptic situation, but like little kids are, they end up being like cannibals. It's weird.
Oh, they made a TV series or a book on that, didn't they?
There's a series. There's a movie.
Yeah,
there's a movie. And like the kids are all like locked up in their little desks because they have this like...
Yeah.
Yeah, it's good. The Girl
Yep.
with All the Gifts. It's a good one. It's older, 2014, I think.
Have you seen the movie then that it's based on?
Good.
Yeah,
they did a pretty good job with it.
Yeah,
and it's a number. So it's like first in this series. I haven't read the second.
Oh,
one.
I see. So it's a series. Okay.
I think so. Yeah, but that would be another one. I guess you could choose.
Yeah.
See, the second one I think is like so the boy on the bridge.
It's just
I haven't read that one though.
It was supposed to be one recommendation per person, and now Barbara has like 12. So.
I know y'all bitches gave me like 12. I gave you like one each.
You rejected a lot of ours. So.
You rejected them, so we had to.
Oh my gosh, because I made y'all think, okay?
I've wanted you to read Wheel of Time since I read it, Barbara.
Look at these books you came up with instead. These are 20 times better than what you recommended.
It's false. I would still like to read Wheel of Time.
So Wheel of Time I don't have a problem with. It's just the fact that it's 13 effing books. Ain't nobody got time for that, okay? And I've heard online that people get bored after like 4 through 10. They're like, there's nothing going on. Like at this point, what are y'all doing? Like picking each other's hairs or something? Because like what more can you do in 14 books? You can't resolve this issue?
That's fair. But we all have some good books to look forward to.
On that note.
On that note, Barbara, go ahead and close us out.
Oh man, have feedback about today's episode? You can contact us by writing to badassliteraturesociety@gmail.com. You can also send us a DM or leave a comment on Instagram or Facebook.
Make sure you're following Badass Literature for free in your favorite podcast app and give us a rating and leave us a review if they allow you to. Also, don't forget to be following us on social media. Our handle on both places is @BadassLitPod. That's on Instagram and Facebook. And with that, we will see you guys next time. I'm Michael.
I'm Barbara.
And I'm Lauren.
Bye.
Bye.